I would like to welcome everyone to this 1 hour data pack learning, right? So that's what it is going. So thank you for my introduction. I do have my intro slide as well. I'll probably talk briefly about it. Let me first share my screen. And if you have not submitted the poll, please, feel free to do it because that kind of helps me to understand my target audience. I can see there's few folks who's already having 6+ years of experience, which tells me that, yeah, at least this could be just maybe a beginner's level or basic information for them, but I'm hoping it will be useful, right, when it comes to the career choice. Yeah, let me know with a thumbs up or anything that if you guys see my screen. Yeah, so like she mentioned, right, so we're going to talk about data science. What are some of the myth, some of the truths. I'm going to talk about my own experience, how I have, handled a couple of the things, what are the things I faced, what my learnings, what mistakes I made, you guys shouldn't make it, So, it has been a lot of confusions lately. It's just like a big wave, when it comes, like if you can ride well, you ride well, but if not, then you might stumble, right? So that is the idea when everyone started talking about data science and everyone start jumping on this title, right? So for the agenda, what I have planned is, typically talk about data science career path, how it is different from the other career path, what are some of the myths in the data science path. I'll also give a quick, like current job market for the data science. Obviously, the economic condition is not as great as it used to be, but I think it's still the lowest impacted field as compared to the other. There's still a little bit demand, but it's going to be more, right? I mean, it's not going to go away. I'll also share some of the interview tips I have. I've given interview with multiple companies, the big names, and I'll provide some tips might be helpful. What is something you would do versus not? Because he already talked about, briefly about me. Here's my intro slide. Not a whole lot, but started my career like nothing related to data science when I started, right? So I was after finishing my school here, I decided to join US Army. I think that is, at that point of time, it was a difficult decision, but if I look back now, I think it's one of the best decisions I made. A lot of learnings from me. Then I worked with government in cybersecurity command as a data analyst. So my career transition, if you look at it, it's small step, right? So that's what I believe. Some of these things I never decided I will probably would have done, like the MBA when I was in military. I thought, hey, let's focus on continuous learning, and I joined the class, and it was completely virtual class, but I finished my MBA. So what I mean to say is this: some of the decisions when you make, like if you're not sure or anything, as long as you're moving forward, it will eventually, plug in somewhere, and it will be somewhere your right decision, right? So US Army to data scientist, a lot of people ask me, how was the transition path? I'll probably briefly talk about it. Obviously, not a focus of this talk, but when I joined US Army, like I said, I didn't realize that I'll ever be working on the data industry. But what happened was I was working in a job where we were collecting some data from the M1A1 tanks that US Army uses on the battle, right? My role was mostly kind of collect some of these data from maintenance of the tanks, their navigation system, their weapon system, so unknowingly, like I was doing some sort of data analysis or data science, right? Because if I look back now, what we were doing was like we were given a device that collects the data from the tank, and then like we were bringing that data and then doing some sort of correlation, right? Like, hey, if like looking at the train, how far the historical data, how when the last maintenance was done, what are some of the parts that needs to be ordered based on the service history of the tank. We're not using any model, but if you think about it, I think those are some of the things that we do in ML, right? Because you look in the historical data and you make some business driven decisions, which in our case we were about to, like, hey, can you order those parts ahead of time, right? Because that maintenance is coming for that. So and also correlating something like, hey, if the GPS system on the tank is not working, it might affect the weapon system, right? Because obviously they have to know the navigation system working properly for some destination to go, right? What I'm saying is there's a lot of factors like the location tracking, the maintenance, sort of like a predictive analytics without using the model, right? But we were using historical data and all. So at that point, I did get an idea that, hey, data is powerful. So in future, maybe I should be looking in job something that kind of circles around the data or relates to data. In my master's, I had a database class, which obviously was not geared towards data science, but at least it was somewhere around the data field, right? So after coming up from the military, I decided that, hey, I want to do something around the data. That's when I joined as a data analyst. At that point of time, I didn't know, what data analysts do, what data scientists do. There's, no difference, nothing, right? I was completely newbie on that field, right? So then the data analyst job, like you all know, right? You basically run some queries, get data exploration, build some report. As long as you are getting some value out of the raw data for your team, for your management to make a wise decision, right? So that's most of the data analyst job. So in the cyber domain, like it's collecting the raw logs. I was kind of making the report of how, hey, what are the devices that needs to be, patch, things like that. It's just building the dashboard thing. Then quickly, my passion in the data grew more as I was working as a data analyst, and then I joined UCST, the University of California, San Diego. They have a very good program for data science, and then I decided to do my third master on data science. And from there, I think it was what I kind of mostly plunged into the data science industry. So that was my career path, so I was trying to give brief intro on, like the reason I spend a little bit time there is you can come from any domain or anything, right? I have during my mentoring sessions, I have met folks that have come from random directions, right? So I've met people working in data science coming from photography industry. I've met one of the motivating stories. I met a person from Las Vegas who was a tattoo artist, and she was having a passion to the data science industry and learning everything on her own, and she left a job as a tattoo artist to come work as a data analyst. So there are so many stories like that. So the bottom line is, if you want to learn and do something on the industry, you can, right? But what you have to be careful is it your passion, is it something that you're gonna like down the line? Obviously, without trying, you don't know, right? But you might have to be able to figure out in a couple of years in your career that whether this is the right career path for you or not, right? So that is the intention of this class, that, hey, giving what is data science, what are the skills needed, like what is some of the myths versus truth, and maybe some of these facts I share my own experience will help you to make that wise decision, right? So before we jump into what is data science and all, and if you guys have any questions, feel free, right? I might not be monitoring the chat, but we will talk about later, right? So someone asked a question: are you Indian or American Indian? So I'm actually from Nepal. So I came here in 2007 to do my master's, and I'm here since then. Yeah, so after obviously serving in U.S. Army, now I'm a U.S. citizen, but yeah, I was born and raised in Nepal. Yeah, so is my slides visible okay, the full screen? Because someone has a post saying the presentation mode. I think this is because when I first started. Thank you. So the some confusions, right? Because I've seen like people saying, do I need to have advanced degree like PhDs to get in the industry? Some people also say, and this is all the questionnaires I collected from all those 600 plus mentoring sessions I have done. Like what are the key areas or confusions that folks have in the mind, right? So yeah, so I'll cover all those questions, Rewaz, like what is data science, what kind of job, what is skills. So it's coming, so just bear with me. Then, like it is also saying that data science is all about doing machine learning, right? Some people have that kind of misconception. And it is always working on building models. That's not true, right? Because data science is actually, if you look at the data science, it's just the higher Uber term that covers most of the stuff within that, right? So business analyst, data analyst, business intelligence engineers, there's so many titles. I still have a slide on that. So, and then, sometimes the business thinks that data science and AI can solve everything for them, which is sometimes makes data scientist job a little bit challenging, because I don't know, there's some sort of misconception that business have that, hey, I give you data, you give me all the answers or solution, right? So that's not true. All right, so everyone knows ChatGPT, like, so I kind of asked like, hey, okay, is data scientist the sexiest job in the 21st century? This was one of the popular articles published back in 2010. So because after that, I think the main hype started. So I mean, it's just like you said, right? In 2011, the Harvard, it also knows when it was published, and it also says that data scientists, there's no, it's very difficult to say, right? There's no job that kind of like it can be defined as the coolest, sexiest, or the best job, right? It all depends on your personal match, right? So where you fit, how your experience will kind of aligns, right? So companies are also creating a lot of confusions with the job titles. If you look at it, so in the first job, and all of this job was published as data scientist, right? So I think one of the main reason is they want to use the titles as something like, their own marketing trap from their end, because they want to, hey, people see data scientist titles, they are a little bit more excited or something. That is the concept, right? And they like to publish every job as a data scientist, right? To look at it, the first job is a data analyst, because it talks about applying the data mining techniques. Data analysts also have to do some statistical analysis. Most of the focus should be on the visualization tools, so that is not a data scientist title, right? If you look into the second job title there, that is a data engineering title, because it talks that, hey, you execute, run, develop some of the platform. So most of the ETL pipeline building, running the experimentation platform, creating or bringing data, so they are almost like data plumbers, right? So you have to make your organization data ready before you can do even analytics, right? So they are most of the folks who actually has a firsthand interaction with the data, bringing in and making the analytics workspace ready, right? The third title is data scientist, because it talks about working with ML algorithms. It talks about model building. It talks about feature engineering, and understanding the business objectives and develop the models that solve them, right? So my idea here, when I'm setting all these three different job titles here, is you have to be very careful when you're applying the jobs, right? If you're looking for data scientist title, you don't want to be stuck in a role that is just data scientist as a title, but it's not it's not working, right? So ML engineer, I think it's a good question. I have, like I said, I have a slide coming up, like where all the titles fit. But ML engineers, if I have to say, they are the folks who sits right in between data scientists and the software engineering. So when I say that, like, it's data scientists mostly focus on building models, ML engineers, focus on deploying those models, monitoring those models. Full stack data scientist is covering both ML engineers and data scientist role. Yeah, that's it. ML engineers, they deploy the models. They have to learn all the ML ops techniques. They have to learn software engineering techniques, and ML engineers is getting popular, at least more than data scientists these days. And the full stack, obviously, combination of two, right? So what is data scientist, right? Data scientist is the field, like if you see, the definition from the Wikipedia for is a systematic enterprise that builds the organized knowledge and testable explanation, right? So you have to have some sort of hypothesis or testable explanation and prediction, right, for something to be defined as a science. It has to be experimentation, right, to prove any concept. So someone has a question of AI engineer. Yeah, so the AI engineer is almost like ML engineer. It kind of phrased a little bit different with the companies, but what AI engineers are expected is mostly understand the data science as well as the deployment of models, right? So yeah, they, like I said, they use a lot of these different titles. Most of them overlap a lot with some sort of minor differences, right? Yeah, so I suggest folks that, hey, like maybe if I miss some questions, some of the slides will definitely cover all these questions that you had, right? So I think we can probably cover during my presentation, and I'm planning to leave at least 10 minutes at the end for questions. So if anything that is not covered in the slides, I'll go through the chat again and cover it, okay? And then the data science is a field of study. This is my definition, right? So extracting insights is always also referred as data mining. When I say testing hypothesis, that is experimentation, right? And then when I say making prediction, so this is machine learning, right? So I think the data science is combination of all these three. This is probably the popular Venn diagram everyone have us, like every one of us has seen multiple times. Where is that intersection? I feel like programming, math and stats obviously valuable. They are foundation and backbone to understand the ML models. It's a little bit more than just calling the scikit-learn classes and running that, right? If you understand a little bit more how each of the algorithm works, you don't really have to have a in-depth the evaluation mathematically, but at least to get all the intuitions, how random forest works differently than gradient boosting, which one will probably fit on my situation, things like that, right? So you need to probably understand a little bit of math behind that, how things work. Programming, obviously not like as depth in as software engineering, but you need to code, right? You need to develop the model in the notebook, and then if you are lucky and you are attached to a team who has a big engineering support, you get more help on deployment. If you are working for startup companies where you are also wearing multiple hats, then sometimes you are working as data scientist, data engineer, the ML engineer, all those titles that I mentioned. You could be doing everything, right? If you are in the startup environment where people are wearing multiple hats. So that is it. Over here, a little bit more in-depth skill set requirements, right? So where do we focus? If we have to talk about programming, what tools shall I focus, right? In my experience, Python and R, right? R has been also popular, but Python just took over so fast because of its expanded library support, and then a lot of the packages that help data scientists to do the data science work. The visualization is important. It's not only for data analysts, but data scientists also, because you need to be when initially analyzing, exploring the data, data doesn't tell you anything until you start asking questions, right? And you have to be asking right questions. This kind of visualization will help. There is some, in-hand Python packages. You can even do some sort of dashboarding, will help you to add on your resume, right? The big data and cloud computing is also important because most of the companies these days, they don't run things on the on-premise, right? Especially for the machine learning models, it needs to be run on the more compute. So they are in cloud, obviously could be AWS, Azure, or GCP, whatever, right? Some of the big data tools I would probably focus on, at least to understand it, will be Spark. There's a Python version of it called PySpark, then that is mostly for the batch jobs. And then there's Flink or Kafka. They're popular for processing the streaming jobs in a sense that if you build a model, for example, you build a model for customer reviewer or the sentiment analysis, for example, right? That usually doesn't really have to be run in the real-time system. You can probably process weekly or monthly, depending on your business requirement. So that is called batch processing, right? You get all the data and then you kind of like make inference or prediction on a batch, right? So, and then you are, if the streaming systems are the online system, for example, if you have a credit card transactions, fraud versus non-fraud, and you have to make decisions, your model has to make decisions on real time, right? Someone kind of swiped the card in the ATM, you just have to tell if that is a valid transaction versus not, right? So on those online real systems, most of the streaming systems used are Flink, Kafka. There's probably more, right? Airflow is a popular data orchestration tool. Some of this, the name of the tools, you don't have to focus on the name, but at least the functionality, what areas I should cover, right? For example, SageMaker is AWS way of doing machine learning, right? And Azure ML is Azure way of Microsoft way of doing machine learning. You don't need to learn both, as long as you have idea about how things work on one. Most of the stuff, the functionality, kind of like similar. So this one is a transition path, right? People can come from various industries, right? Like I said before, and this on not only this is for the most common one I listed there, but I myself came as a data analyst, like I talked in the beginning, right? So what you have is on the left, right? And what you need is on the right. So obviously you come as a software engineering, you already have coding skills, your engineering mindset, your DevOps, your CI/CD pipelining skill, right? But you need to build a little bit more, the ML skills, your data visualization skills, stats, product sense, things like that. If you bridge that gap with the skills like that, then you definitely can move, to the data science title. So this slide kind of talks about if you are coming from one of those titles, what could be some of the main things you should be looking at to fill the gap, right? This was a slide I was talking earlier. There is a lot of the job titles, but how does it falls everything under data science, right? So people think data science is only about doing ML, which is absolutely wrong. And then data science also covers the top split of this, the diagram where it talks about analytics focused roles, right? And I have met so many folks enjoying the analytics side of the data science, right? That's something that they love it because they get a lot of business interaction. They are building some of the coolest dashboard. They're also bringing some value from that. They're also understanding all these key performance indicators called KPIs, metrics tracking, for the leaders. So I think most of these titles, even on the not doing the core ML building, they also fall under the data science umbrella, right? If you can see it, and you see that data scientist somehow falls on both sides, right? That is the thing. That is why if you have to probably focus on looking into the job specification more briefly, in more detail, to understand, hey, is it analytics focused type data scientist role or is ML focused, right? So if they are asking some of these core skills like machine learning, big data tools, some of these skill set that I mentioned earlier for ML side, you might be doing most of the work on the ML side, right? Companies also use titles like applied scientist, like Amazon has predominantly used that title. Applied scientists are just like ML engineers, so it's nothing new. Those folks deploy the model as well as building the model, right? And then the AI specialist, like the question came before, right? So it's also like ML engineers, but when they say AI, it's a little bit bigger subset of data science than ML, right? Because ML is more specialized. Deep learning is even more specialized, right? So people seek titles depending on either deep learning specialists, research scientists, if they are just talking about some special areas, right? This is probably one of the career making decision. I picked up this flowchart from one of the popular book, so which talks about guiding data science careers. One thing I see value here is, do I need a graduate degree? And this may not be the exact decision making flowchart for you, but it will be a good blueprint or the starter, right? Because some folks think that, hey, do I need a boot camp, right? So if they want to switch the data career in short period of time, they might, right? So if they don't have any knowledge of programming, they don't have anything knowledge of data analytics, and if you are starting very fresh, the graduate degree might help. Because even in my case, I did have a little bit experience of data analyst, but from the data science perspective, I didn't have much experience, and going to school, it's more organized way of learning, the syllabus and everything. It's not fast-paced learning, and then people try to cramp all the things in the boot camps. I have seen good boot camps and bad boot camps, right? So some of them is just waste of time and money. So you just have to be very careful. How do you can you get an opportunity to learn on the existing job, right? Some people like, hey, can I leverage the current role, and maybe I can start having conversation with my manager saying, hey, can we do a little bit more of data science or stuff, if there is scope for that in your existing role, right, for learning. That will be also best way of transitioning, right? So you kind of bring that data science, you suffer, right? You start on your own to the company, right? So if some of the small companies, they're doing tremendous work on the data analyst, but they are not doing much in the data science, then you might be able to go in that direction as well, right? So that might help you a little bit. You guys probably have seen this popular framework called the CRIPS-DM, which is cross-industry standard process for data mining. This is one of the oldest models, but it's still very popular because it starts with business understanding, right? So we more of times we see the flow charts for ML workflow or something, and everything starts from data collection sometimes, and before that, there has to be quite a bit of interaction happening with the business side. So quick example would be when I was working on the Wells Fargo, so we were building a fraud detection model. So we were having at least a month of interaction, right? 2 sprints for sure, with the business partners discussing that, hey, what are some of the pain points or the challenges they are currently facing, why they think the ML will solve this issue, like, do they have a right data? What are the point of contacts? The data scientists will connect to them when needed. Is data scientists can start getting some sample data now, or do we have to wait until to sign some paperwork or put some data contract in place? A lot of these questions, everything comes around when we talk about business understanding, right? Then if we are able to get a little bit of sample data, we can also do data understanding. Hey, what kind of data you guys have? And data scientists on their own internally, they can do some brainstorming that, hey, okay, what are data science, like what are the data we should be looking for, right? So we think that, hey, okay, so the credit bureau data might be helpful on this model, for example. Then we need to ask them, is that data available? Because it's a third-party data, right? So that bank has the data, or do we have to get with another team besides the fraud team who keeps that data? So there could be many teams, functionalities in the company. One company is keeping the customer data, for example, which we also think that, yeah, if we bring the customer data, that some of the demographics data might be helpful, so these are the discussions needs to happen before we even start jumping into the like, hey, let's get dirty with the data, right? So you need to have a lot of this prep work done. So it is an iterative process. If you can see, one of the best thing is the data kind of sits in between. So everything is kind of driven by data here. And you evaluate a model, deploy a model. So this is whole iterative, the whole outer circle. This is iterative process. So in the starting, you may release just your MVP, right? Business calls at minimum viable project. So you build something, you share with the business, and then is it meeting the business requirement? Your evaluation of model and evaluation against the business metrics could be different things, right? It could be getting higher accuracy, but is it answering the business question? That is why evaluation also has to be tied with your business understanding, right? So I like this model because it gives that good framework and foundational work for us to start. What are the areas to focus, right? I see some notifications saying the hands up and things like that. If you guys have a quick question that you guys want to ask, feel free to ask. Yeah, I'd probably give or we can wait until the end of the presentation, which I prefer. Anything is fine.
The thing is, Nirmal, that we have like muted, disabled the mics for the attendees.
Oh, okay, it's fine.
Yeah.
Then
But
please,
yeah, you
everyone.
guys
Yeah.
can surely ask questions in the Q&A section, and we will surely answer them at the end of the session.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for that. So yeah. So let's focus on this. Let me go through a few slides that I have, and then once we finish, we will take questions. So this is where software engineering, or the engineering mindset, comes to merge with the data science. I don't want to probably go through every details here. I kind of came up with this when I was talking to someone saying, hey, how can we kind of do the parallel process, working with the engineering team? Because as soon as the problem comes to the team, right? For example, the fraud case, we could have, or we should have, engaged the engineering team at the same time, which we did not, right? So, and later from that project, we understood that, hey, few things could happen with the engineering team on parallel, like, hey, where does this, if I build a model, where does this go and integrate, right? So if the whole application is owned by the software team, we need to have that discussions from the beginning. Then once we develop the model and then start working with the software engineering team, they're like team from the beginning, right? So that is why it can split like this, right? So pipelining code, you can work with them. Hey, what is some of the things you need to bring, right? So you are thinking of building a feature store, for example, that you collect the data, and then once you create the features, you do the feature engineering. You want to implement that as a pipeline, right? Because when a new request comes in the production environment, that new request is a new data point, right? It's just like, when we train the model, we split in the train and test, but like, we don't have that kind of batch processing system that we get all the test data in one bucket and then start making prediction when we put the model in production, right? uh, we we have to maybe able to make decisions in real time, like the ATM fraud or systems, right? For that, you need to start working that, hey, how do we serve the model? Do we serve in a function? Do we serve as an endpoint? So this kind of discussions with data science team, this top half is data science team, the bottom half is the software engineering team. You need to probably be able to engage parallelly, right? So this definitely helps, and this is the best agile way of doing data science, right? Having that engagements with the folks ahead of time. So what is some of the top 5 myths? This is all everything we'll cover in the slides. Is data science just a hype, or what is the thing behind it, right? I believe it's not just a hype. Data is growing. If you guys all know, right? Like we collect tremendous amount of data, right? So this is just few examples, how many search happens every day, how many data we collect, the Amazon e-commerce sites, everything, right? So if you think about it, we are kind of surrounded by the digital world now, right? Because I mean, we are chatting right now. This Zoom meeting is generating data, right? So everything is generating the data, and then I don't think it will be feasible that if this raw data uh, can generate some values for the business, then what titles they need, right? So data scientists and everything, right, to work on the data. So I think it's not just the hype. There's a lot of demand. Uh, it just kind of like not incorporated in a well mannered, or at least the new job seekers are not understanding in the right way, right? Uh, Also, the data science is more than building ML models. I said it before. I'll say it again. The daily job of data scientist is, I wish every day we come sit and then start, hey, like, let's just build a model, right? Uh, it's not like a Kaggle hackathon or anything that you're gonna work on building model every morning, every day, right? There's so many moving parts for a data science project. Like I said before, your continuous interaction with the business partners, your continuous interaction with the engineering team. So you kind of sit in between, right? Because you are developing something for the business with the help of engineering team that is data driven, and that model is going to, help business make the right decisions or whatever the use case you are solving, right? So you're going to have to be more interactive. Your role is highly visible. That is one good thing. So and then it's more than doing the ML models only, right? PhD is a requirement. I believe not. If you are focused on the research-driven roles, like I said before, it might be. But if you're not, then you really don't need the PhDs, right? Some companies like Google, Amazon, for their research-based quantitative data science role, they might prefer it. They if you think they listed on the preferred requirements, that is what they prefer, but it's not in their requirements mostly, right? Unless you are just doing the pure research role. So mastering all data science can make me a best data scientist, right? That is another confusion. So I don't know if you guys heard about this Dunning-Kruger effect. This is something that is important to understand, because initially, if we do some projects, in the Kaggle, or if we start learning some scikit-learn packages or other packages to build our ML skill set, we may think that we understand everything, right? So the initial learning curve will kind of shoot up. But once you start working with the business, things will be different, right? You won't get a clean data. You may not be able to get data at all. You're going to have to work with business partners to figure out how to get data, and then there's a lot of challenges. So I prefer that, like you get a little bit learning curve like this to follow your route rather than falling on this trap, right? A lot of people think that they understood everything in a short period of time, and then it takes time. It's the learning data science is a journey. Then it's just not a sprint. I'd say it's always a marathon. People say that data visualization skills is only for the data analyst. Data scientists mostly focus on build models, but data scientists also needs to understand what are the different ways of tell the story, right? Storytelling skill is very important. This is just one quick chart I'm putting here. This is based on the LinkedIn post that I have posted. I was sharing all the data science tips. I took the top 10 tips, and then see how it is performing, right? My latest top 10 fields. This both charts gives us the same data. It's based on the same data. I mean, which one is more, kind of like an ideal way, or at least giving more storytelling, is I prefer the right one, right? Because if it is on the timeline, I would rather have a timeline rather than just so the core idea here is you need to have some understanding of how to tell the story in the right way, right? So over here, I cannot tell exactly which post was popular, which post was the least popular, most popular. At least I can say that the stat post was popular and coding post was least popular, at least on that top 10 post, right? So, and then I can see this in a timeline, right? Over here, I think that a lot of information is there, but it's if the reader is not looking right, it's hard to kind of understand. And when it comes to data storytelling, when you are going present with the leaderships, you know that picture tells 1,000 words than words, right? So which is true. And then they focus less on the words on your PowerPoint slides. I believe you guys, when you guys see this slide, you guys jumped focused on this to visualization than reading this. And very less people will read this content. Exactly, it happens with the business partners when you are talking to them. So just make sure that you bring that that storytelling skills is very important. How do you kind of like view the data in different ways, right? So it could be the same data, but so some of the emerging jobs I'm talking about. Hey, what is this is the annual growth of the jobs, like data science. This is even the bottom two are in the full stack, that they're mostly focused on uh, the top half is somewhere around the data or AI, right? So every job is growing, but in 2021, data scientist was number two. In the Glassdoor 2022 report, the latest one is number three. But you guys can see there is machine learning engineer, data engineer, product manager, depending on if you're working with the data team, that is also could be doing some data science work, right? Most of these roles are coming from data industry, right? I'm not going to talk about this slide. It's just trying to give a message that the data scientist title is still very popular. And then what happened post-COVID, right? So pandemic has pushed a lot of these companies to digitization, right? Every one of us work from home, or at least all the companies, they when they were not in the cloud, or they were pushed to go to the cloud, making their service or product available, with more online than in person, or the store shopping. So this is what happened. So a lot of businesses kind of grew, and right now the wave of the layoffs is also kind of like a hyper growth that companies blaming for during the COVID era, right? So I know the growth was a lot, right? Uh, so obviously this slide also shows that the data science platform market throughout the entire world is growing. So all of those two slides, the message I'm trying to give you is you're going to have a lot of demand coming forward, right? This career, this title is not going to phase out. It's going to stay. It's just you have to be able to figure out what is the right title. There's so many titles, as you saw before, right, for you. I'll probably spend a couple of minutes here, then we'll go back to the questions. We're gonna have to, there will be a lot of no's. It's my own experience. Like I faced a lot of the interviews, and it's hard to get interviews sometimes because of competition in the industry for the data science, but you will just have to navigate through it, and there's always some small s, hiding on those all the nodes, right? If you see one of my experience shared by my mentees, like, hey, people always say about landing in a job, hey, now I'm a Googler, I got an Amazon and also, but they don't share about their failure story, right? So there's always a failure story behind every success story. So number matters. The conversion rate, when I first applied my data science job, it was very poor. My conversion rate went a little better, because as you progress, that is why getting the first job is always hard. But once you start navigating to the data science, your career will become a little bit more streamlined. You're going to start applying less jobs, and you're going to have more interviews, as experience counts, Networking is important. The reason I highlight this slide is, some of these jobs, at least the third job is completely through referral from my networking, so it is very important that you connect with the right folks. Applying jobs is important, but it's only blind applications sometimes will never hear you back, right? You cannot hear back from them. What is some of the do's, like what do you think I suggest? Don't have one single resume thinking that it works for every job, right? So you may have to tweak a little bit depending on what role you're applying. You start writing some data science related blogs on the popular, and then kind of list that on a resume. Things that you are also being a part of the data science community helps. And keep learning is the important thing. Soft skills is also important. Some people are always focused on learning like technical skills, and they are less focused on building their communication skills, things like that. That is important, right? Because as a data scientist, like I said, you will get a lot of visibility, and then you need to be able to solve the problem for business and also explain them, right? You might be working with non-technical audience. The business folks may not understand the data science language. You go talk to them about precision recall and the ROC curve, they're going to be just looking at you like, what is this guy talking about, right? So you're going to have to break it down depending on your audience, so that is why the communication skills is very important. Some of the things that you don't want to do, you want to be selective on the jobs, but you don't want to be too choosy that, okay, this is not the company I want to work for. This is not the right job I want to work for. If you become too choosy, then your subset that you want to apply will be always less, right? Following up with the recruiters, is some of this stuff is important because you're going to have to stay on top of your own application, right? And more importantly, you don't give up. All right, so let's spend a few minutes for the questions. If you have in the Q&A sessions, maybe some of the questions I already passed on the chat that if the moderator can kind of like have a handy, you can tell me and we can cover.
So
or we can unmute people.
Okay, if you want, I can unmute. Like, if anyone, like, if you want to take any name, I can unmute the person.
Yes. So there was some hand raised, so I missed it, but
yeah.
So the hand raised folks, if you can again put in a chat that if someone wants to type their name.
You people can just mention your question as well in the Q&A section. We'll take it up right away then. And Nirmal, if you want, I can read the questions for you because
yeah, let's go read the questions. We don't have much time. I do have a hard stop at 8 as well, so
yeah, okay, no problem then. So before we move ahead, I'll just share the feedback polls as well. So guys, please do fill in. And okay, I've shared this feedback poll. So we'll start with the questions. So what do you think will be the impact in data science professionals of the launch of technologies like ChatGPT, Palm, etc.?
oh yeah, a good question. So the technologies like ChatGPT, all this big called like large language models, right? LLMs, right? So they will have good impacts. At least what we know is there's a lot of the research work is going on this field, right? So some of this kind of help to automate a lot of this stuff. Like, hey, can Chat GPT? There was one presentation in the Microsoft yesterday that a team was researching how they can use the Chat GPT for, the how they can use the Chat GPT for malware analysis. So when we analyze the code, for example, the code will be all the functions and all, right? So for a human to analyze that code is hard. What ChatGPT can do is, a quick example is, they can break down that functional code into like English language, right? Hey, this is what the function is doing. This is calling this is calling that. And at the end, it's interesting that it also says that, hey, this code is encrypting the data. So if a human is missing that, analysis, then the system like ChatGPT is obviously helping them, right? So yeah, it will be interesting. I think we are moving in the positive direction there. So
Great. So next one is by Mayank. He says, "You have motivated me a lot as I am in a bad phase."
Okay, thank you for that, and I'm glad some of the stuff that I shared today was motivating. And I mean, don't consider yourself to be in a bad phase. I mean, no one is. It's all about relativeness. Uh, I if you look back, and there could be folks that is not in your situation, they even worse. So we never compare which phase we are at. We just want to make sure we make best out of it.
True. Next is, I am already in one of the bootcamp classes. What is the correct path to be a data scientist?
Yeah, so if you're already taking bootcamp classes, I suggest to spend more time besides the bootcamp syllabus, also doing, learning more about the topic. Sometimes the bootcamps are designed in a way that they have to put a lot of this uh, content in short period of time, and which may seem intimidating in the beginning for the learners. But as long as you give more time self-learning as well, you should be good.
So next we have, is that necessary to learn AI to become a data scientist?
So this is confusing again because, like I said, the AI is one of the part of the data science. So understanding or knowing the AI is not mandatory, because you can still do data science. Because if you are doing like the business and analyst roles, the data analyst roles, you need to understand a little bit of statistical modeling, but you may not have to know the full ML or AI, because if you want to stay on the analytics part of data science, like I said before, right on that one of the slide.
So next question is, a citizen data scientist.
Yeah, the citizen data scientists, they call it sometimes seasoned data scientists, seasoned citizen data scientists. This is something like, hey, their core focus always has been data science. They have been in industry for a long time, at least 5+ years of experience working in the data science industry. They usually try to praise them as citizen data scientists, seasoned data scientists, things like that. It's just the market term.
Okay. So how would we land data science jobs? Additionally, what are the steps and processes that will secure data science and data related jobs more, especially remotely?
Yes, so I think in current economic condition, it's hard to say which job is more safer, but in my experience connecting to all other folks working in the data science industry, they at least in better shape than the other folks. That also depends on which organization you are affiliated with. Some of these organizations, that the way the company makes layoff decisions, it's really hard to tell which product line they are about to discontinue, and that's where they kind of like drop most of the folks rather than related to performance or anything else. Yeah, so there's no steps I can say that, hey, this will save your job. It's just, I mean, as long as you do meet the business requirements and work on getting better on yourself on the job, I think there's less control from us when we are trying to secure our job. I mean, even right now, it's a scary moment in Microsoft, in big companies everywhere, right? Yeah, so the PowerPoint slides can be given. So I think I pull up the question list. I can go through it, as long as
Okay, sure.
any suggestions for the boot camp, right? So I will try to share this later if I have couple. I do have couple, uh, and then there's one from Great Learning. They affiliate with MIT, and I was mentoring as a mentor on that class. So which one was that was also good. If there's more, I'll definitely share, right? Some expert think that Agile framework doesn't apply to data science. What do you think? No, I think Agile framework and Agile mindset applies for data science. That is why that one slide I had, you're going to have to start communicating with the software team ahead of time, parallelly, rather than waiting at the end. So if you follow that kind of the sequential or waterfall model, you're gonna be in bad shape. So Agile is important. Thanks for the scope of the. Okay, Rizwan Riwaz. Okay, you are also from Nepal. Okay, yeah, nice to meet you. How exactly mean my model? So yeah, model is, if we build a machine learning model, for example, right? So your model is just a piece of code, right? Ultimately, it takes the inputs, it makes the predictions, and then you have to put that model to make predictions, right? So it's usually, once you train the model, it's just the algorithm, that gives you some output based on the input. That's pretty much it. Ultimately boils down to. Is there a roadmap for data science? Conversion rate means the number of applications I hit, and then I sent, and then how many got picked up, right? So today I have a lot of automatic tool generators applied. DS is not cover all the tools in reality. Okay. Yeah, so some of these questions on the book, and learning path, I can share additional information afterwards with the DataHour, and they will probably share it to you guys.
Sure, sir. You can just email it to us and we will just forward this to everyone.
Yeah, so I will send the information about some of the boot camps I think are a little valuable on my own experience, and so it is always based on my own experience. So there's nothing, no other factors attached to it. Then I'll also share a few books that I believe could be a good foundational work for data science. So I think I need to drop off. This was a great session, and thank you for all the attendees. I'm hoping that this 1 hour was valuable for you to understand some of these things within the data science industry. A few of the questions that I was not able to tackle, mostly related to the books and the boot camps, stuff like that, I will share my notes with the DataHour team. Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.